knowing that you was right and proving that you was right, like that feeling of like, yeah, I just persuaded everybody in here that this is correct.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So one, definitely proving that I'm right.
Yeah.
Like I won't say that I'm right all the time, but I definitely live by the code that I am right majority
Okay.
of. And I enjoy being right. You can always tell me if I'm wrong, but I definitely enjoy being right, and I'm fine to admit that. I think most people enjoy being right about something. I also enjoy, being given a set of facts and being able to compare that and contrast it to the Black letter law. I mean, the laws are the laws. Like they rarely change. That's a problem with the judicial system in America. But having what we have, I think that being able to take a set of facts and compare and contrast that and pull out what's different about it, the same about it, and conveying that to somebody else, I think is just such a dope skill set.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Armand back again with another episode of Big Boss Talk, the podcast. I got another top tier guest in the building on the screen. All right, so listen, this was a recommend. You know how the podcast go. If you are you new or you've been here for a while, you know how it goes. We always get those recommendations. And I love the recommendations. Like every time I get a recommendation, it gets better and better and better. And it's like for the guests, I'm like, I know y'all are super excited and y'all should feel the love that somebody really like thought of y'all at the top of the hills. Like, man, I think this person is super dope. So shout out to the people that recommended you. Shay and LaBria from Juice Crush. The episode is out now. But let's get into the guest. All right. So we got Shannon Schoultz, age 32, career/job. She's a corporate attorney. College degree. She went to the University of South Carolina. I always get those Gamecocks, man. Shout out to Gamecocks. Rocky Top. Hey, we beat them by 90.
We did. Ran it up.
Yep. And then Don went and got the dub right after. So that's huge. But
it was a good weekend.
I'm telling you, University of South Carolina got a BS in sports and entertainment management. Juris Doctorate. American University, Washington College of Law, Yrs In Profession, 7. But listen, Shannon, say what's up to the podcast.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
We doing
Happy
good.
to be here. Thank you for having me, Armand. Shout out to Juice Crush for thinking enough of me to put me on, highlight me, recommend me, nominate me, whatever the language is. Very happy to be here. Excited to chop it up with you tonight.
Let's do it. I'm glad you're here as well. I got some good questions for you. Really want to dive in deep. But before we start, we always do 2 truths and a lie. So you already prepared. So I'm just ready to go ahead and get this lie.
Let's get it. So 3 facts about me. You got to tell me which one is a lie.
Okay.
Fact number 1, I can speak 2 languages. Okay. Fact number 2, I've traveled to over 15 different countries. And fact number 3, I know how to drive a manual car, i.e. a 5-speed.
Okay. Listen, I ain't even going to play with you about the last one. You look like you could. I'm telling you, you could drive that thing. I ain't even going to lie to you. So that's a fact. You know what I mean? Even I know how to drive manual, but I think that era, just you know how to drive manual. You said you've been over 15 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. See, that's where sometimes it gets tricky. A lot of people like to throw numbers out there, not the exact numbers, but that sometimes they exaggerate. And then the first one, you say you speak 2 different languages.
Yep.
I mean, come on now. I can't even put that past you. Like, you might speak a little bit of English, Spanish might be secondary. You might French, bonjour.
Never know.
I'm gonna say
natural tongue from the motherland. You never know.
Could be. So listen, I'm gonna say that the 15 countries is a lie. I think you're well traveled because I looked at the IG. I tried to do a little research. I know you travel. I just don't think it's over 15. If it's over 15, like, shout out to you because that's a lot of traveling. But I think that's the lie.
Nice try. I have actually been to 18 different countries. My sister and I counted them up today. I had forgotten like 3.
Wow.
So shout out to my sister for being like, didn't you go here? Didn't you go there? So I love to travel. It's one of my favorite hobbies. I've been to 18 different countries. If we got time, I'll walk through all 18.
Yeah.
And I do not speak 2 languages. That's one thing that I wish I did do. I've always wanted to learn another language. So whenever I get some free time and my clients slow up, I plan to learn a second language, most likely Spanish. I'm conversational in Spanish, but definitely don't know enough to be fluent or to live in a predominantly Spanish-speaking country. But with the demographics of America changing, I think it's so important to know more than one language and for Americans to keep up with the rest of the world, because most folks across the world know more than one language. They usually know English and they know another one. Typically, Americans are the only folks who only know one language. So it's one of my goals is to learn another language, maybe 2.
That's crazy. 2. Americans always want that main character energy. Like, we can't learn no other language but English.
Right.
You know what I mean? But now I wish I took Spanish all the way up until high school, man. And I did great in high school. Was in BI baccalaureate classes. I was
yes, come on, BI. I know what that is.
I was smart. Didn't graduate with the BI, but
you was in there.
Yeah, I was in there. I kind of gave up at the end for some reason. I don't even know why, but didn't graduate with it. But we always took Spanish, and the only class I ever failed was Spanish. I don't know why I couldn't get Spanish to save my life. Went to college and messed around and tried. They was like, you gotta take a Spanish. I'm like, I'm not good at Spanish. I get in there, I'm not doing well, so I'm like, look, I gotta get up out of here. And then I get over to sign language, and I found my tribe. I was over there like. You know what I mean? Like, I could do the thing.
I love that. That's cool.
I lost a little bit of it. I understand people when they sign to me, like, but I can't really hold the conversation as going back. But I love sign language. Took 4 years of it. It was great. But I do want to hear those.
That's a nice fun fact.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I do want to hear your 18 countries, because I think that's amazing. You know, as young as you are, and like to have hit so many different countries is crazy, man. Like, I've only hit a couple, like maybe 2, 3, but 18. I want to hear them.
Yes, okay, I got you. So I also studied abroad twice. I studied abroad in undergrad and in law school. So that also kind of like opened the door for me for travel in terms of like getting my pass. I think I got my first passport when I was 21. So that's when I studied abroad in college. And then from there, I just always loved to travel. So the 18, of course, North America. So that's the United States, Canada, Mexico. And then we'll go to Europe next. So I've been to the UK. I've been to Belgium. I've been to France. I've been to Switzerland. And there's another one. Greenland.
Okay.
Iceland. And then the Caribbean, so that's 9. And then in the Caribbean, I've been to Aruba, Barbados, Antigua, St. Martin, Anguilla, Turks and Caicos, Costa Rica, Aruba. And what am I missing?
That's a
I'm
lot.
missing one.
It's
I know that's a lot. It's funny.
lot.
Sometimes I have to look at my Instagram.
It's all good.
Belize. I've been to Belize.
Listen, man, you're going to have to teach me like some of the travel hacks or something, man, because I'm trying to hit those spots. I know it's a way you can travel and do it all, but I just don't.
It is. I did my most traveling when I was in law school, i.e. didn't have no money. So
That's good. That's good. So cool. I like that fun fact. I'm upset that I did not get the lie. I thought the numbers would have been off, man, but it's okay though. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna get you. All right. So now I got 4 questions for you. Hot, quick questions that you can answer just to kind of get to know you. All right.
Okay.
Do you have? This is for me personally. Do you have to know every law to be a lawyer?
Absolutely not.
What's the okay?
I use Google every day.
Oh, so okay, cool. We'll get to that question at the end. Favorite place to travel?
Okay, so my favorite city in the U.S. is New Orleans.
Okay.
Love New Orleans. Always a good time, good vibes, good energy. And if I'm traveling out of the US, I love to travel to Black countries, meaning that they are predominantly Black people. I just love learning. There's so much diversity even within the diaspora. So I love traveling to countries and learning about where they came from and the motherland, the history of their country. And then also just giving back to those economies, because oftentimes those economies are built off tourism.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy going and being like, we look alike. You be my cousin? Because when you are, what I like to call slave Black, we often don't know exactly where we came from. I mean, we know we derived from the motherland, but just knowing the history of where ships stopped and docked and where our ancestors may have gotten off at is always just super interesting to me.
Yeah, that's dope. I love that. And then when you're not working, what are you doing? Like, what we doing for fun?
Yeah, so I am a super extrovert. There is nothing about me that is introverted. So I love hanging out with friends. I love entertaining and hosting. So this phrase that I've like coined over the years is called shenanigans. So it's like a play off of my name is shenanigans, because I am always forcing my friends to play just like different games, hypotheticals, this or that, trivia, like always making them play games. And I like to be in the house because outside is expensive, outside is dangerous. And when I lived in DC, outside was cold. So getting people over to the crib, food, drinks, game night, like that's my jam.
Yeah.
I'm here for it always. And if I'm not with friends, then I'm usually in the house reading a book because I do like to read.
Okay, got you. Now, by chance, I got to ask this question. You know Lex, right?
I know a lot of Lexes, so
her IG is Lexaholic.
I do,
yeah. So when I interviewed her, so it's crazy because I'm not sure. Are you a part of? Are you a Delta?
I am the only sorority, yes, sir.
Okay, got you. So I done interviewed a lot of IX. Okay, so
I love it.
It's crazy. I'm running through the family, so it's
the whole
crazy.
Chapter. I love it.
So Lex was telling me that she had somebody that played like this or that with her, was super like just pop up and just ask crazy questions. I didn't know if that was you or somebody else, but she said somebody, because when you said that, I was like, dang, Lex said she knew a friend that did the same thing, that would message her and be like, would you do this or that, or live, I don't know.
She might have been talking about me. I love to, like, I'll just come into a group chat and be like, okay, hypothetical of the day. And it'll be something so outlandish. And my friends, they like to complain, but they always answer the question. They always entertain me, which tells me they secretly love it.
Yeah. They love it. Okay. And then my last question so far in the beginning is, as a Black woman, what do you want your legacy to be?
I love that question. I want my legacy to be that I could just go and do anything. Sometimes I feel like when I was growing up, I felt like you had to like choose one thing and do that one thing forever.
Yeah.
And I always personally struggled with that the older that I got, because I felt like I was good at a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. So I was like, should I focus on one thing and become like really, really good at this one thing? Or is it okay to like have several different interests? And I just love the fact that I just am, yes, I'm a Black woman, but I have so much diversity in being a Black woman. Like I could do a lot of different things. I have a lot of different interests. Yeah. And I want my legacy to be that anybody can go and do anything that you want. You can change your mind tomorrow. You can wake up tomorrow and decide you want to run for president of the United States. You can wake up tomorrow and decide you want to just travel to Europe.
Yeah.
And live off your savings for a little bit and jump from hostel to hostel. Like there are no limitations to who you are, be who you want to be. And if that changes, that's okay too.
Yeah. That's super dope. Like the diverse, I think as people in general, like we are so diverse. Like we do so many different things, are really good at a lot of different things. And like you said, I think we were taught to, find one thing, pick it and do that. But I think now is a great time or a great opportunity, as you can see, where people are jumping from, what they loved, from doing something that they didn't like as much, and then going into something that they love, because they understand, like, I think 2020 taught us like the real essence of time. Like the time you have here, is beautiful, it's sacred. You don't have a lot of it, so it's like do everything you can. But I think that comes with a mind change, a mind shift, and being able to unlock that and just not be scared to try things. I think that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely,
and security. Like a lot of people love security, so they'll hold on to security and choke it to death. But you'll realize that there's no such thing. To me, there's no such thing as security, because anything can happen and change in a moment.
Everything you got today could be gone tomorrow.
I'm
So
trying to tell you. So that's good. I appreciate you answering those questions for me. And then we're gonna go into the beginning. So what did young Shannon want to be growing up?
this feels so cliche, but you can even ask my mom. Like I would say from the time I was probably 5, so old enough to talk and articulate your thoughts, I've always said I want to be a lawyer. I don't know if I saw something on TV. I don't know if I heard somebody say it. I just kind of like always said, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And like, who knows like where I actually got it from. But then when I was in the 8th grade, my parents always put me in summer programs. So every summer I was in somebody's program, traveling somewhere, doing something. They did not believe. And my sister and I just like sitting at the crib watching MTV.
None of that.
All summer. So I went to this summer camp and it was, we did like a moot court like competition at the end where you got a case, you had to argue in front of a panel of judges and you couldn't tell me nothing. Okay. I came with my suit.
Yeah.
My daddy pressed it out the night before. I had my little note cards and arguments were ready to go. And I would just say the rush that I got from that moment, I was like, yep, I'm born to do this. Nobody can ever persuade me. I can persuade anybody to believe anything. I can make you think that your whole room is gold and that it's worth $1 billion. Like I'm just convinced I can persuade anybody to believe what I am saying. And so that's just been the name of the game and just always, saw it through. And here I am now.
Man, that's awesome. So I ain't gonna say I rarely hear that people when they say they want to do something at a younger age, they stuck it out and they became it, right? Because things change all the time. Like you might have took a class that you didn't like, oh no, this ain't for me. I changed my mind. But when you talk about the rush you got from that mock trial, like I think I did something like that in college, and I really did enjoy it because it was a team event and you all had to speak your piece and like you kind of get into this argument like, nah, you wrong, I'm right, really getting into it in class and not even knowing it's just a grade. So I do want to ask, like, I guess what about it that did you really love? Was it just the going back and forth? Was it the preparing? Was it the just knowing that you was right and proving that you was right, like that feeling of like, yeah, I just persuaded everybody in here that this is correct?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So one, definitely proving that I'm right. Yeah. Like I won't say that I'm right all the time, but I definitely live by the code that I am right majority.
Okay.
And I enjoy being right. You can always tell me if I'm wrong, but I definitely enjoy being right. And I'm fine to admit that. I think most people enjoy being right about something. I also enjoy, being given a set of facts and being able to compare that and contrast it to the Black letter law. I mean, the laws are the laws. Like they rarely change. That's a problem with the judicial system in America. But having what we have, I think that being able to take a set of facts and compare and contrast that and pull out what's different about it, the same about it, and conveying that to somebody else, I think is just such a dope skill set to have. I think having the ability to, we talk about different languages, but there's also a language being able to speak lawyer to lawyer and then speak lawyer to non-lawyer. And I think having the ability to translate that is critical, especially just in these times. I find that I'm a resource to people nonstop because I'm able to read something or dissect something and think through it in a way in which other people haven't been trained to do. Yeah. And so being able to provide that resource to my community, my family, my friends, I think is essential. And I just love being that resource for others.
Yeah, definitely a real skill set, I'm telling you. So how do we get to USC? Out of all, you from Augusta, Georgia, out of all
Beach Island is a small town.
Okay, out of all the schools in Georgia, you get to Carolina. How?
I went for free.
Okay.
So the school that I thought I was going to go to was Tuskegee University. I come from a family of HBCU graduates. So I was definitely looking at historically Black colleges and universities. But as most people know, HBCUs are private institutions, so you don't get state funding to attend those. I have an older sister who had already went to an HBCU, and I always joke with her that she had like depleted our parents' savings for the kids. she got the first bite out of the apple. But yeah, Carolina gave me a bunch of money. So Beach Island sits on the border of Georgia and South Carolina, but it's in the state of South Carolina. So
Okay.
I got the Pell Grant. I got the Gamecock Guarantee, which is a newer-ish program. It's about 15 years old now, but it was a program at the time for lower income students. And they took care of whatever was left over after whatever scholarships or grants you received. That program paid the rest, and it gave you stipends for living and books. So I mean, it was a no-brainer. Go to college where it's free. And then when I toured USC, I loved it. You know, coming from a super small town, going to Columbia, I thought I'm in the city.
You live it.
I mean, you know, like, because USC is not like on a traditional campus. It does sit downtown. And so coming from a super small rural town, like that was huge to me. The idea of going to such a large university, being around so many different people from all over the country, I was like, sign me up. I'm here for it. And it was free.
Facts. You can't beat free. Listen, 5 points in the Vista will definitely get you attracted to the school. You know, you get down there on a weekend, have a ball, not the football team winning.
I was like, I'm going to the University of South Carolina.
That's it. So cool. Okay, so obviously we went to school for free. If you could give like a tip or some advice, how can you help someone get through college? Like, what's the best advice you could give to a up and coming college student?
My best advice is to not box yourself in. Be willing to try any and everything. I'm not talking about drugs and alcohol.
I like that disclaimer.
Little disclaimer. But different extracurricular activities, different auxiliary groups. Like you never know what's going to interest you. And I think college is like the place to figure that out. We don't know who we are when we're 18. Like college is the place that you can go and really explore that. So don't be afraid or feel like my friend's not doing it or nobody that looks like me is doing it. Yeah. Go out and do it. And if you don't like it, cool. Do it for a week or two or a semester and then pivot and do something else. But I think like really using that first couple of years of college to just be explorative and figure out what it is that you like. You never know where it could take you or what it could lead to.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's some of the best advice because a lot of people tell me, or even myself, like I went to college and I know this for a fact, like sometimes the education is great, you know, to have that education, but I think some of the most important things that you pull from college is the relationships. Because at the end of the day, like if you get out and join a lot of different groups and just get out there and let people know, like don't always, you know, be comfortable with your people, your black people, but also get to know some of these other people as well. Like I'm not saying be best friends, none of that. I'm just saying get to know them, let them know that you know that you got something, it's something about you and that can come to the table, because at the end of the day, like you never know where people go out after college and you never know what you may need after college. So I think just having those resources and having good contacts and doing good business while you're there can definitely help, to your point that you talked about, just not putting yourself in that box. So
absolutely.
Got you. So now what would be some of the best advice someone has ever given you?
It's easier to stay up than to play catch up. And so what I take from that, I think you can take a lot of different meanings, but what I take from that is if you slack off and just give up, it's going to be 10 times as hard to play catch up whenever you decide to play catch up than it is to just always wake up and put one foot in front of the other every day, even if it's a baby step. It's much easier to just stay up than to play catch up. So, you know, life is hard and you're going to go through moments where you're not maybe as productive or as engaged or as on top of your game, whatever that looks like for you as in other periods of your life. And that's okay. But the idea is that you don't just stop. You don't just give up. You don't just say to hell with it. You do something because it's easier to stay up than to catch up.
Yeah, that's great piece of advice. I just think I went through a transition of that. Actually, it's just like, you know, when you, especially like with the podcast and stuff, like, you know, I enjoy talking to people. But sometimes you can also be drained as well. Like I'm always talking to people, always, you know, interviewing people and things of that nature. But it's just like you gotta have some type of consistency and system or, you know, habits built in you that, like you said, if you stay up, you don't have to really play, you know, catch up as much. And I think that's major important and a super gem that you just dropped, because even in work sometimes, like you could have a great week at work, put you ahead of everyone else, and then you kind of slack out that week after. But now, that time where you slacked off, people were catching up to you and surpassed you. So it's like, if you just stay consistent in, daily actions, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be
daily
a lot.
Actions, yes.
Daily actions, daily tasks. I think that'll, once you build that routine, you'll always be up, kind of to your point. Absolutely. So I appreciate that. Cool. So, all right, corporate attorney. Now you got to talk to me like I have no idea what's going on. No idea what you're doing. I want the bare basics, like corporate attorney. What is it?
So yeah, basically a corporate attorney are just attorneys who represent corporations.
Okay.
So my clients aren't people, they're organizations and businesses like Walmart, for example. It's one of my bigger clients. So that's what I do in my full-time 9 to 5, what I call my day job. And my specialty or area within corporate law is data privacy. Mm-hmm. So I help corporations protect their data and help them navigate ever-changing privacy laws. The way in which we communicate now is very vastly different than it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I think the internet was just coming out. 30 years ago was 92. So, the way in which organizations communicate with their customers or consumers is very different. Mm-hmm. It used to be paper files that you just keep on site in a closet. Now we communicate via email, we communicate via text, we communicate via social media. And so having to navigate that within the context of lawsuits can be very challenging because technology tends to develop much quicker than laws are written. So oftentimes we have new technology and the courts haven't caught up to how to navigate that new technology. So I assist my clients with navigating that when they're sued. Typically they're sued by consumers who are alleging that they've stolen.
Alleged.
Or stolen.
So it's not true.
Allegedly stealing their privacy. I mean, I tell people this all the time as a data privacy attorney. You don't have if you got any social media, you don't have no privacy. If you got an iPhone, you ain't got no privacy. And that's not to scare you. That's just to be very honest. The moment you sign up for any application, you get this long page of text that most people do not read. And all of that text is basically saying that you are agreeing for that organization to use your data how they see fit. You select, yes, I agree, or yes, I agree to the terms and conditions. And then you sign up and then they continue to collect your data for the rest of your days. And that's why when you have your phone and you have a conversation with somebody and then you get on Instagram and you see an ad for that very thing that you just talked about, that's because the FBI is watching. No, but that's because there's really no such thing as privacy the way in which we have technology today. Because technology can be a really good thing. I mean, it's allowed us to do good things. It allows us to stay connected. It's allowing me and you to have a conversation. And I don't even know what city you in, to be honest. But it's allowing you and I to have a conversation right now and not be anywhere near each other. So there are really some good things about technology. And then there's some not so great things about technology. So I just help corporations navigate that for their best interests.
Man, that's crazy. So I'm in Houston. So Houston to Atlanta, Houston to Atlanta they similar cities, man.
They're the twin sisters.
I'm telling you, man.
They're the twin cities of the South.
Man, I can't catch a break. All these people come visit. I'm like, goodness gracious. But back to the conversation. So all right, so you protecting. So okay. How many cases do you run across? Is this a constant thing for you? Because I'm pretty sure people are always talking about, my data's been breached. I used to work in the telecommunication field, and people used to come in and be like, my email just got hacked. All my information is gone. So I can imagine as a corporate attorney and also dealing with data breaches and things of that nature that you come across a lot of cases. Is that true or is it not? It is.
Yeah, I mean, these corporations get sued every day, literally every day. And it's not always super big breaches. Sometimes it's just a former employee who wants to sue the company to say you can't use any of my data going forward. So sometimes it's not some super huge breach or some super huge allegation that the corporation is doing something super detrimental to a group of people. Oftentimes it's smaller one-offs. But yeah, company kind of the saying niggas get shot every day. Corporations get sued literally every day. Good for me because it keeps me paid, keep us in business, keep law firms open. Not so great for organizations because they have to constantly change the way they do business, and they have to make all these considerations as they're thinking about their business to make sure that they are, navigating and staying away from things that could cause them to get sued. So that's also part of the job. Part of the job is being reactive, reacting to when my client is sued, and the other side is being proactive, being like, hey, I noticed that California has come out with this new set of privacy laws. Let's take a look at all of our sites in Cali to make sure that they aren't doing anything that would run amok to what the California legislature just pushed through in terms of data privacy.
That's crazy. I mean, you're a super important person. Like, you wear multiple hats, and it seems like you do a lot. Like, I know it feels good to be important, but I know you can also, that's why you travel a lot. Because you gotta decompress. I gotta get up out of here.
Listen, I get on.
Listen,
okay.
PTO is taken. I'm out of here. Okay, so mock prep, right? So how do you prepare for these breaches? Like, depending on whatever it is, like, what's the preparation process for you? As far as, like, are you looking at certain things, or is it case by case? Like, it just depends on what's coming to you.
Typically it just depends. There are so many different like think tanks and organizations that are typically tracking when you can anticipate litigation. So oftentimes we'll get alerts that, a group of plaintiffs are corralling to file a class action against a certain corporation. Sometimes it's just like, we don't find out till it's happening.
Okay.
Like, oh, this is what's going on. And so the prep can look different client to client. Some clients are really on top of this, and they've curated a whole team inside of their organization to monitor this, to track it, to look at it. Some corporations are a little bit more risky and are like, we don't want to put all this money into it. We'll kind of like face it as it comes. So it really just depends. We've started something newer-ish in my practice group where we're tracking what state legislatures, I should say, rather, are doing, so we can kind of stay ahead of the game and let certain jurisdictions know as things are moving or navigating. And then I also just check like case law monthly across the nation to see how courts are dealing with certain situations, so I can then notify my clients, like, this is what just happened. In Texas with Uber, how would that affect us if we're Lyft? Like, we should probably be considering that, because Lyft and Uber are direct competitors, and if a court ruled this way for Uber, they're gonna do the same thing if a case comes through for Lyft, for example.
Okay, dope. I appreciate that. Again, super important job. I feel like it's a lot.
It sounds more important than it is. Honestly, some days I feel like I just send emails all day.
Listen, when you explain it, I'm like, and this is the whole point of the podcast, because I want people to understand, like, it's almost like when people, sometimes when we get like an overview, like, what all you got to do, it can feel like a LinkedIn application, like, oh, we need X amount of this, boom, boom, boom. But once you get into it and you get somebody that can break it down, like, okay, this is the bulk of the work. This is what you really gonna see, like things of that nature. I think that eases the mind for some people, because sometimes people are scared to go for careers like a lawyer, a doctor, because they know that is hard. Like, it's gonna be hard. Like, I'm not saying it's not hard, but once you get it and you break it down to in its simplest form, you can then layer by layer just become an expert, become better, and really get in the field. So
absolutely.
My next question is just, what's the hardest part about becoming an attorney? Like,
passing the bar. Yeah, I really struggle with the bar exam. Man, I don't even like talking about it. I feel like I have PTSD. I feel like I have PTSD sometimes I think about the bar exam, but it's just, the bar exam is this old, outdated, arbitrary way to say whether or not you have what it takes to be a lawyer, and it's just not reflective of what any lawyer does. And so, in my opinion, we need to do away with it. I'm not saying we don't need some type of measurement once you got out of law school. I just feel like the bar exam doesn't really measure that. And so it's a 2-day, 8 hours each day exam. And you get an array of topics of what could be on there, but you don't know exactly what's going to be on it. So you spend like a whole summer studying an ass of topics, and you kind of have to just like guess and decide what you're going to spend most of your time on, and hope that the exam you get, focuses on the topic you spend time on. So it really could just be like a free fall. It took me multiple times to pass the bar exam. It took me 3 times to pass the bar exam. But, in life, sometimes you just get thrown curveballs and you have to just persevere. Because I look back sometimes and I'm like, man, I really considered just like stopping and being a travel blogger. No joke. I really was like, I think I'm going to just start traveling and blogging about that and let that be my career. But, that little girl in me was like, no, like this is something that you always wanted. Like you can do it. And so I just was like, I'm all right. I'm going to get this one last go. And then boom, I passed and got a job. And now I get to work on really exciting cutting edge law. So it worked out.
Shout out to you for the perseverance. That's a huge thing. I know people that, obviously they go through all that schooling to just get to the bar and then not be able to pass the bar, and then they get so discouraged. Like, I mean, I kind of feel like that's messed up that you go through all of that schooling and then have to, obviously it depends.
Tell me about it.
You know what I'm saying? Like your license or your career depends on that one test where you got to study a whole summer on multiple things. Like it's like, I mean, it's really just, I think it's a weeding out process. Like, let's just weed out the people that's weak and the people that got the mental capacity, the grit to keep going, keep trying and really get it. All right, they can excel and really bear the fruits of their labor. But I think that's so sad. And when you said old and outdated, I do want to ask, how do we get that change? Like how, what's the process? Will it ever change? Can y'all send in some type of letter and sign a petition? Like, hey, we need this change ASAP. Like, this is not accurate. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, there has been some changes as of late. Like, for example, every state used to have an individual bar exam, and you have to pass. If you want to practice in a different state, you got to like pass that state's exam. And so about maybe 10 years ago, they came up with the uniform bar examination, which we call for shorthand UBE. So not all states have adopted it, but about 20 or so states have it, which means you could take that one exam and then you're licensed. You could be licensed to practice in all of those states, barring that you also pass character and fitness, which is where you have to just say like, I'm not a criminal, I don't do drugs, I have the fitness to be a lawyer or represent clients. So like I said, I mean, I think more people like me speaking up and being like, this is stupid, we should change it. What will help? I don't know if that's going to be anything in the short term. They definitely had to look at it like during COVID because, the bar exam used to be something you take in a secure building, no phones, no technology, etc. And then people had to take the bar exam at home. And so I think that showed that there is room for change and to be more progressive when we think about how we structure coming out of law school, but I just don't know like how soon we gonna actually see that. So
for sure, I just had to get your opinion on it because like I said, I know so many. Like I talked to a lot of different people that the bar exam like really stumped them. So
hard, it's so hard.
Yeah, that's huge that you passed. So shout out to you. And then how does someone become good at what you do? Like what makes you like the bomb, like the boss? Like what makes you top notch?
I like that question. I think number one, not being afraid to ask questions. I struggled with that at first, especially when I was in rooms where no one looked like me. I would be afraid that my question would be dumb. Yeah. There's no such thing as a dumb question. You would be surprised the amount of white men who don't know what they're doing, who are mediocre at best, and are literally just figuring out on the go. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I think number two, I think repetition makes you really good at something. And so like, just stick with it. Like, okay, you got it this one time, do it again, do it next week. And you will be surprised at how good you'll be in a month. When you think about like working out, start walking on the treadmill for a mile. You do that every day. Imagine like you will be able to do that, talk on the phone and watch TV and do a whole host of things. Whereas maybe when you first started walking your mile, you couldn't breathe. You know what I mean? So like, I think repetition really matters. So asking questions, repetition, and then getting a mentor. It's always going to be somebody who has done it before you. No need to create the wheel. Get somebody who can, hold you down, give you insight, share perspective on it because they've been there before. I think those three things coupled up put you on the right path.
Chef's kiss, man. Chef's kiss. So listen, mentor. I just asked this question today. So I got a friend, somebody that I met through the podcast. He has a clothing brand. and we were talking. We're coming into the new year. Obviously, my mind is geared to set new goals, set new things, what we want to achieve. How can we make this bigger and better? And I think he on the same type of time, except with clothes. It's a steady pace grind. Like, you gotta really, you don't want to think too far ahead, and then you also don't want to think in the past. It's like every day you just gotta get better. But I asked him, I said, man, I really need a mentor. You know what I mean? Like, somebody that's been in this space. And I was like, do you have one? He was like, nah, man, but I got people that dabble in what I do, and I just kind of give ideas, and we give each other ideas and things of that nature. But I think, like, I just feel like, where could I, because everybody that comes on here, they got a mentor, like, and I'm like, dang, like, mentor, like, I already knew mentor was big, but I'm such a dog, I guess. It's like, I'm gonna figure this out by myself. I don't mentor or not, but I do want a mentor, because it's like, I can learn, I can ask questions, I can, like you say, not reinvent the wheel. So how did you gather your mentor? What are some things? Was it a natural relationship that was built? Was it something that you seeked out for? Like, how did you build that?
Yeah, I definitely think it came through like natural relationships. So like, getting involved with organizations or groups that are doing what you want to do. So if that's clothing brand, right? I'm sure there's some Facebook group or some group me out there of folks who are new entrepreneurs. Same thing for podcasts or journalism or mass comms, that area. And so like just putting yourself in those groups, in those rooms, whether that's in person or virtual, and then just like naturally gravitating towards people. I find that the mentors that I have that like just formed naturally have been with me the longest and are the ones that I really trust to go to with certain questions versus like those programs where they set you up like, this is your mentor, you're their mentee, and they kind of pair you together. I also think like it's beneficial for us, like in our generation. Don't always feel like you got to get a mentor that's like 20 or 30 years your junior. Your mentor could be somebody that's also your peer. Yeah. Maybe they've done it already, or they are doing it as we speak. I think like networking across is key. We don't always have to like network up. And so finding people like your own peers who are on the same vibe and wavelength or doing the same things that you're doing can be powerful. Like I got a group chat of all lawyers. We all graduated law school at the same time, and man, we bounce so many questions off each other in there. And it's like sometimes I laugh because I'm like, look at me giving advice when I was 2 days ago. I didn't know what I was doing either. But guess what? I learned it 2 days before my homegirl did. So guess what I'm gonna do? Share the information. And I think that's what we have to do. Just always looking out for one another. And I think from there, they could introduce you to somebody or put you on to someone. You just be surprised the doors that it will open up.
Yeah, I think a point that you hit on as far as like people when you're in a role, you get a job. A lot of people are learning on the go. Like nobody really comes in and knows everything.
Nobody knows what they're doing. And I think all figuring it out.
Yeah, and I think like that's a chain that can break mentally, because a lot of people feel like, oh, I gotta know everything just to step into this role. And I'm a firm believer is like I rather bite more than I can handle versus like taking like small bites and not really getting my full appetite full. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully I broke that down how I wanted to, but it's like I'm willing to fail hard and fast early versus like be patiently waiting. And like when you get into corporate America, like you see a lot of that. Like you'll see a lot of people that stay in a role 10, 13 years, the same role. And then you get somebody, a young gunner that's like, okay, I've done this role. I'm hungry, ambitious for the next. It's like those people try to tell you to slow down. Hey, young fella. It's like, but I'm not you though. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Like, that's your path. My journey is different.
Yeah. So like slow down. Don't put your fears and insecurities on me while we, along this journey. So I think, what you talked about is just having that mentor and things of that nature. I think that's huge, key. If anybody that's been paying attention, like I'm telling you, everybody is mentor. So just listen, man. That's all it takes. And then we coming to the last stretch. Believe it or not, we've been talking for almost an hour. So I try to
like this.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Me too. But I'm gonna be respectful for your time. But I got just a few more questions before we head out. So obviously we know how to become good at what you do. Do women get treated fairly in your industry? This is a question that I wanted to ask because I know I think now like a lot of women are, but stepping into this industry, and a lot of black women are, trying to, going to getting their degrees, becoming getting their doctorates and things of that nature. But do you, as a woman, as a black woman, get treated fairly in your role? And if not, what ways do you not see yourself being treated fairly?
I think speaking first across the board, whether or not women get treated fairly, maybe black women, no. I think that black women, and I'm being intentional in the separation because I think that white women or other women of color have a very different journey than black women.
Okay.
And oftentimes when progress for women is talked about and celebrated, it's progress for white women. And I think it's important to acknowledge that black women aren't always included in those conversations or those ideas of progress that women have made. I mean, when you think back to women getting the right to vote, that was just white women. Yeah. Black women still couldn't vote when white women got the right to vote. So I think it's just important to always make that distinction. So when I think about black women in corporate law, I think that they are already so few of us. Only 2% of United States attorneys are women, are black women, excuse me, and even less than that in corporate law. And so I think that for women who have ascended to higher positions, they've had to work 4 times as hard than their white male counterparts, twice as hard as black men. I think that oftentimes, women, we get ambitious women, we get there's a lot of turmoil. It's like, well, if I focus so much on my career, where does my family fit in? Am I going to be able to also be married? We have considerations that men just don't have. And then you add being black on top of that, and you have to deal with the microaggressions and the undertones of whether or not, a black woman has what it takes to make it. And time again, I mean, black women have shown us, you get a black woman on your team, you're going to win.
Every time.
In life. And so I think the second part of the question was like, and if we aren't treated fairly, like how...
Like if you've not been treated fair, I just wanted an example of where you see yourself not being treated fairly, right? So I think you kind of explained that as far as like just being black and obviously seeing the recognition come from more of on the white woman side than versus like black women in your role. But if you have other takes or other things that you would, prepare somebody that's getting ready to jump into this role, how can they, be on the lookout?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I've been so fortunate to have, or like what I like to call sponsors.
Okay.
And so these are black women who like champion me. These are black women who have made it, who are in these rooms where my name is brought up, and they go to bat. It's like, even if I just research one case and send a summary of it, it's like, Shannon saved the day. Here are all the reasons why she's amazing. And, we have to do that because, I like to tell people, I like to tell other black women, we all we got, right? And so if and when you make it, whatever that looks like for you, never being afraid to hype up the next person coming after you, and not thinking that if another person comes up, it's somehow taken away from your plate. Because if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to always eat. Your plate going to always be full, and it'll always be room at the table for somebody else who looks like you. And so I think keeping that in mind and being encouraged to not only look out for yourself, but pull somebody else up with you, I think is how we even the playing field.
Most definitely. I think mindset, man, we kind of lose the kind of like the crab in the barrel mindset.
Yes.
And I know it's cliche, like everybody says it. It maybe it's harder said than done. I think naturally I've always, just me personally, I've always wanted to see the next person beside me win. I'm not really afraid of competition, friendly competition. Like if you do something and I see it, I'm like, oh, that's motivation. Like how can I do it and compound that? I think that's how you got to look at it, is more of on a friendly level versus the jealousy aspect of like, why not, why they getting everything and not me? Like I taught them everything, whoop-de-whoop. So I think that's important. And I think, as to your point, black women should definitely, do that. Nepotism is a great thing, when it's
sure is. I can't wait to put my kids on.
You know what I mean? Like when you do it, you do it the right way. Like I feel like every culture has that for themselves, and I think it's only right for us to do the same. When you in the rooms, champion somebody, sponsor somebody. Obviously they got a whole, the name got a whole value now, so you can't just everybody be like, support black business. Well, I want to support black business, but the business got to be up to par too. You know what I mean? Like, you can't slack off in certain areas where these other companies may, have the expertise and they do very well. But I do believe, like, we got to be able to speak other people up in different rooms. So I think that's super huge. I appreciate you today. We hit almost everything that I wanted. I guess the last one would just be, what's your ultimate career goal? Do you see yourself being an attorney long term? Do you see yourself ducking off somewhere in Belize, Abu Dhabi? Who knows for you? 19 countries? Man, listen.
I always tell people I don't have a dream job because I don't dream of labor.
Got it.
However, if I had to have like just the job that I think would just make my life, I would love to be a TV judge. Whether that's divorce or just like petty, just like small petty stuff. Yeah. I would love to help like everyday people navigate small claims and do it on TV, because I personally think I am hilarious. In my Instagram bio, I have that I'm an undercover comedian.
I saw that.
People who know me in real life, I think they would agree. Okay. So I think like being a TV judge would just be like such a fun job.
Okay, that's dope. TV judge. All right, now when I see you on TV, I'm like, hey, she said she was gonna.
You can be like, I know her.
Yeah, I know her. She said she was gonna do it. That's cool. All right. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you. I hope you had fun. I hope, this was
an easy
conversation. I try to keep it easy and just, keep it flowing. And I try to ask some the bare bone questions just to help somebody get a grasp of, what it is that, corporate attorney. Like, I want to be an attorney, but I know there's different types of attorneys. So, like, breaking that down and understanding each level, each segment is important. And I think you gave us so many gems. I took away, obviously it's better to stay ahead than worry about catching up. I took away so many. I ain't gonna give you a recap, but I do need recommendations. Obviously, as you would recommend it, I always, 1 to 2, if anybody comes to mind right now, that'd be perfect. If not, you can obviously send them through IG, just send me the profile or whatever. But do you have anybody on the top of your mind right now who you might recommend?
No, okay, but I'm gonna send them to you.
It's perfect. No worries. Well, listen, I appreciate you. You have a good rest of your night. And I try to let people know this is not transactional. So whatever you got going on, anything outside of being an attorney, if there's anything we can highlight, share, celebrate for you, we're glad to do it. And you Big Boss Talk family for life. So appreciate you.
I love that. Thank you so much, Ramon. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you. Likewise. You have a good one.
Okay, you too.
Bye.